Hey everybody, I'm Christopher Green. You're watching AMTV, Alternative Media Television Live. It is, of course, November 1st, 2016. Thank you for tuning in. We're running a little low on juice on our Face Crook stream, so if it does go out during this broadcast, just head on over to YouTube Live. Make sure to like, share, favorite this video. Vladimir Putin is being framed at the United Nations at this very moment for war crimes. Now, we put out a video over the weekend, just a few days prior to Halloween, titled, World War III is on the horizon. There's a lot of detail to that video, and I encourage you to watch it. Please like, favorite, and share it if you haven't already. It's up to, I think, 50, 60,000 views, something in that ballpark. But in it, divulged, is this very critical report and information that behind closed doors, at this very moment, the puppet that makes up the UN and the United Nations is attempting to frame with legal recourse Vladimir Putin and physical recourse in war. Vladimir Putin as a war criminal in Syria. They're trying to accuse him of the countless deaths, hundreds of thousands of people slaughtered in Syria as a result of U.S. intervention, covert and now very mainstream overt destabilization in this part of the world. You know, where they just overthrow dictator after dictator at the whim of the U.S. federal government and what makes up the Israeli Secret Intelligence Service, ISIS, of which they've been arming and funding. And all of this is admitted clearly by the Pentagon, by the State Department, and by your president, Barack Hussein Obama. And something Hillary Clinton wants to continue, by the way, right? She wants a no-fly zone, which it's been spelled out to us very clearly that Russia and China will respond to that. And there will be war as a result. And she was even asked at the debates, will you shoot down that plane, a Russian fighter jet, as it flies through Syrian airspace? She was like, yeah, pretty much. I'm going to do it. There's going to be freaking world war. I mean, this is very, very serious and very critical. And for those of you that think, oh, you know, it's a conspiracy, it's so extreme. No, it's not. I'm not the only person talking about this. Jill Stein is talking about this, running for president of the Green Party right now. Mainstream politicians are talking about the fact that under the leadership of Hillary Clinton, there will be world war. So how do they get there? How do the establishment elite push us that direction? Very, very carefully. More importantly, how do they make it look like they're not the first actor? That it's not them preemptively attacking Russia. They need a smokescreen. They need a Gulf of Tonkin type catalyst. They need a September 11th. They need a Franz Ferdinand moment, like we saw with the beginning of World War I. All that's coming. But as a precursor to that, they need some kind of legal framework to position Vladimir Putin, more importantly, demonize him in the eye of public opinion, so that he's hated, so he's reviled, and it justifies war against his people. And again, as we stated in our video, we have never been closer, folks, to nuclear war. Ever. That is very serious, and yes, it is extreme, and honest to God, it keeps me up at night. You know, I've been quite upset lately. Honestly, I'm just being upfront with you guys because watching this election is very upsetting. Knowing what's coming is very upsetting. Kim.com. I spoke about him in our first live stream today, the video number 1. He even tweeted the other day, and this is a guy, he knows what's going on behind the scenes in the tech world. You know, founder of Mega Upload, direct linkages to Julian Assange, etc. He's like, yeah, there's a reason my family lives in New Zealand, because I know World War III is coming. I mean, again, folks, I'm not the only person talking about this. This is biblical. And if you don't believe that, it's just a reversion to the mean. Again, there is always a reversion to the mean. There is always a middle ground to everything, and we're due. The New World Order establishment elite, the powers that be, need a reset button. They've got to reset this broken economy, the facade that makes up 0% interest rates that is currently holding up global financial markets right now. They need a refresher. And they're going to do that through war. And it's very upsetting, and honest to God, very much upsets me. I'm not sure people got the gravity of the video we put out a couple of days ago. This is bombshell breaking news. The UN, the United Nations, a puppet of Western interests, and the United States government and NATO are currently positioning Vladimir Putin as a war criminal. This is what they do, okay? This is what the Ministry of Propaganda does. They brainwash you into believing that these people are evil, that they're the devil, that they're Satan, that he's Hitler. Hillary Clinton has even called him Hitler. It's why they're creating these untruths and fabrications and baseless lies connecting Donald Trump like he's got linkages to the KGB and Vladimir Putin in Russia, for example. They want to put him in that basket. I was just talking to my producer here a few moments ago as we were taking a quick break before shooting this video. You know, you can't have it both ways, Hillary. You know, on one side of the coin, she's like, Donald Trump's KGB, James Carville said this, we played this in the earlier clip, and he's working directly with Russia and Vladimir Putin. And then on the other side, he's going to start World War III if he becomes president. Like he's going to press the nuke bomb that goes off and targets Russia. That makes no sense. You can't have it both ways. Either he's working for KGB in Russia and he's a Russian plant, or you can't have both. He's a loose cannon and he's just going to start war with them. I mean, if he is KGB like you say, Hillary Clinton, or you're insinuating, or James Carville is insinuating, then he's not going to start war with the same people he's working with. They don't want war. They want diplomacy. I mean, it just goes to show you how idiotic their argument actually is. And the narrative is that they put out to the American public, but they don't even think this through at all. They don't even think critically at all that you can't have both of those worlds. Yet, at the same token, if you go through Hillary's digital media platform like Twitter stream, for example, there's these countless videos put out by Google and others that are like, Donald Trump's going to start World War III. What? That makes no sense. You can go look up this document yourself. This is at the official United Nations organization, one of their websites, ohchr.org. You can just throw this into Google. Special session of the Human Rights Council on the deterioration of the situation of human rights in the Syrian Arab Republic and the recent situation in Aleppo, a place that Gary Johnson's never heard of. And you know, honestly, if Trump loses, thank Gary Johnson for stealing like some 6% out of the vote that would go Trump's direction. But instead, he's just going to implant himself there to potentially steal the election from him. Just kind of a side note. This letter, and I'll read a little bit of it, was posted as recently as October 21st. Now, during this time, again, we talk about it in this video that we put out, Putin has been sailing a flotilla of warships. 8 of them were spotted recently, a few days ago, off the British coast, coming from north and south, putting the entire Royal Navy on red alert, alarming its neighbors, testing bombs off the coast. This is all happening. He's on his way. He's already there now. Again, most people were paying attention to something else, mainstream media, and these shenanigans that makes up this crisis that is our election right now. His warships are just hanging around Syria right now. He's waiting, for example, and the speculation is that this could be he's planning his final blow, an attack against ISIS in Syria to ultimately destroy them. And I'm waving down my producer here right now, just to make a quick adjustment here. There's a lot of speculation that he's about to declare victory in Syria with one last final blow. Is the United States going to let him get to it? Again, none of this really makes sense if you look at it, because Vladimir Putin is at war with ISIS, right? Yet at the same side of this, the United States has actually propelled ISIS. See, the United States is providing cover, air cover, for ISIS, for example, helping them to take key parts of the region of the greater Levant over to cause and create this destabilization effect in this part of the world. So, again, you can Google this. Google is your friend, folks. I'll read a little bit of this. They say, once again, this council has been called to discuss the disgraceful human rights crisis in Syria. The violations and abuses suffered by people across the country, including the siege and bombardment of eastern Aleppo, are not simply tragedies. They also constitute crimes of historic proportions. Well over 300,000, the estimates I've read say up to 500,000 or more, men, women, and children, by the way, civilians, have died and have been killed, and countless others wounded and traumatized in the course of this civil war. Now also a proxy conflict and a training ground really for World War III. This is what both Russia and the United States are using this war-torn nation for. In Syria, it's providing training for what's coming, fueled by cynical regional and international interests. Tens of thousands of people have been abducted, summarily executed, or arbitrarily detained and tortured. Broken, uprooted, and displaced families now number well over half the Syrian population, which, by the way, thanks to George Soros, he's pushing all these people over into the United States to radically help transform our nation in places like Europe. Broken, uprooted, and displaced families now number well over half the Syrian population. Hospitals, schools, marketplaces, water facilities, and neighborhood bakeries have been deliberately and repeatedly attacked. Millions are routinely denied life-saving aid. And the attack, lasting a month, it goes on here, on a humanitarian aid convoy took these pervasive violations of international law to a new low of barbarity. It goes on and on. Basically, and read this for yourself, this is a precursor, and this is the justification the powers that be need for war against Russia. Not to fight the war in Syria, but to fight the proxy war that turns into a real war in and against Russia. And this is so dangerous, folks. You know, Vladimir Putin has spoken recently. We put these clips in the video that we rolled out where he's talking about U.S. NATO encroachment, you know, against his country, setting up what they call a missile defense shield in countries like Romania and Poland, for example, that are just shown to be two gutless nations for U.S. Western interests. He talks about how dangerous that is to Russia and their ability to respond and retaliate from a preemptive nuclear strike. A lot of people think that nuclear war, World War III, as Mark Twain said, you know, if World War III is, fought with nukes, that, World War IV will be, fought with sticks and stones, something along those lines. He talks about how dangerous this actually is, how Russia wouldn't be able to respond in the event of a preemptive strike. And a lot of people think falsely that this idea of mutually assured destruction will prevent the West from preemptively attacking a nation like Russia. And I think a lot of intelligent people like myself, and I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but a lot of very smart people, a lot of them smarter than me, they have a strong suspicion that the United States actually thinks that with a tactical and strategic first preemptive strike, that they can actually be very successful in an attack against Russia. Reset the global economy. Reset the 0% interest rates, this fabrication that makes up trillions of dollars worth of bailouts. Reset the order, the New World Order that Western nations are pushing forward and Vladimir Putin and his allies are trying to prevent. Now, I've done so many videos on this, on how economic warfare is a real threat. It comes before, just like the United States put up an oil embargo against Japan, knowing that they would attack Pearl Harbor at the time. There's a lot of evidence to support this. It's the same reason they've imposed sanctions on Russia. The same reason the United States and her interests have covertly been working with their partners in OPEC to artificially collapse the oil markets, for example. Why? Principally because it hurts Russia. Because Russia uses a lot of these oil subsidies to subsidize its entire nation, something that they should diversify, and I think Putin is actively working to diversify. It puts direct pressure on Putin from the oligarchs. You know, Putin's job isn't that stable right now. He could be overthrown. The oligarchs could get angrier, those that are really in control. So this is a destabilization game plan, And it's exactly what is happening in real life today. Sanctions imposed. They artificially collapse the oil markets. Hence, the ruble collapses. It begins to put tremendous pressure on Vladimir Putin to potentially privatize Russian assets where the U.S. and her interests can potentially take over and seize control of those same assets and interests, something that we haven't seen Putin do. The more pressure they put on him, the more they demonize him, the more they frame world events against him, the more the pressure that they put on Syria, and the last line in the sand, I think Vladimir Putin knows this, which makes up the Bashar al-Assad government, the more it forces Putin into a corner, the oligarchs into a corner, and potentially lays the groundwork for something very, very dangerous. Something Kim.com was talking about over the weekend, world war. You know, I don't think people understand how dangerous this is. Even Putin has said it. Hillary Clinton, you're going to get a freaking world war. Donald Trump, you're going to get peace. While at the same time, the Clinton campaign tries to spin it like it's Donald Trump that wants war. And it's so not true. Who will strike first? How will they position this confrontation? What type of nuclear weapons will be used? Now, Russia, by the way, Putin just ordered any students overseas studying abroad to return home immediately. It wasn't a recommendation, it was an order, like return back home to the motherland right now. He's moving warships into Syria. He's running drills, nuclear doomsday drills with up to 40 million people, basically making up the entire Russian population right now in preparation for a nuclear event in Moscow. And the Western media barely reports this. The American people aren't informed about this at all. You know, we almost had an accident a couple of days ago. Putin blamed the U.S. blamed Russia. Well, a couple of fighter jets almost ran into each other. Again, what's going to happen? It could just be a freaking accident that starts that event, that provides the smoke screen and the catalyst that the U.S. needs and her interest needs to propel this war forward. I mean, you've all heard the names before, folks. Rockefeller, Rothschild, Warburg, Soros. Look at it from their perspective. The U.S. is crumbling. They've had to co-opt Donald Trump and rig potentially this election. The vitriol is heating up. The boiling pot of water is overflowing. What are they going to do next? The entire U.S. economy and fabric of our societal order is at risk. 0% interest rates, the Federal Reserve holding rates down at zero essentially since the last collapse and failing to raise them more than one time, and they essentially haven't raised anything. It's only 25 basis points higher. We're still at zero. How are they going to reset this mess? You see, they've already transferred all the wealth. That's what 2008 and 2009 was about. It was an engineered heist. It's exactly what it was. And take it from a guy who actually worked on the inside for a major Wall Street firm and saw this happen in real life and provided my motivation and passion for what I do today. Anyone with a thinking cap on and an actual brain knows that that was a heist. They've already transferred all the wealth through the trillions of dollars worth of bailouts to the powers that be that control everything and always have. They've eradicated the middle class completely. Now people are holding on to that last semblance of what they would call a democracy, really a constitutional republic, and we essentially have a war in the streets of America, diametrically opposed with each other. We have the radical left, we have the constitutionalists over here that have nothing in common with each other at all. You know, I was driving through my neighborhood the other day, and there's a Trump sign on one corner and a Hillary Clinton sign on the other. They have nothing in common with each other at all. It's why we're moving to more civil unrest. I think they're trying to quell through public appeasement and front-running the reopening of this FBI Comey investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails. It's not like they didn't have them before. They just know something very damaging is about to hit the wires and they're trying to get ahead of it. All of this leads to a very dangerous and potentially violent situation in the United States of America. And what a better way to control the people than through fear and through war. Remember, we saw it on September 11th, right when the buildings collapsed from World Trade Center 7. Never forget, goes down in a, engineered, pre-planned demolition. I mean, a plane didn't hit, nothing hit, just goes down. It's the only building of its kind in world history that has absolutely collapsed perfectly with nothing hitting it. Everybody knows it's headed this direction. I know it, many of you know it, Kim.com knows it. The only people that don't know it, I think, is the radical left. Maybe the smart ones, they probably do, but we're moving to that point, and I think we've already moved past that point of no return. And now we see it clearly at the UN, the United Nations, demonizing and framing Putin as the next Hitler, as a precursor and legal justification for the war everybody, including myself and you tuning in, knows is coming. After that framework is laid and they've got the building block for that in place, then all they need is that Gulf of Tonkin moment. Then all they need is that catalyst. I tweeted, and please follow me on Twitter at AMTV Media, we are at a greater risk of an unknown external event over the next few days leading up to November 8th than at any other time. I mean, think about it, folks. This is when an enemy nation hits the U.S. in the balls. Or there is that Gulf of Tonkin moment that the U.S. is going to grab onto or maybe even orchestrate and use it as a false flag to position us for that war. That's how dangerous this all is. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Put your comment, question in the box below. Please share this video, like, share, and favorite it. Support us alternatively at AMTV, AMTVmedia.com. Subscribe, price of a cup of coffee or tea, $4.95 a month, $49.95 a year. Get our stuff out everywhere, folks. Thank you again for everything that you guys do. Get out and vote. Trump, exercise your constitutional right to make your vote and your voice heard. But the repercussions here are very, very serious. They're very, very upsetting. And we all know what's coming. And we know exactly how they're going to position this. There is clear motive for this. The establishment of the AIIB, the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, the fact that Russia and China are buying gold in droves and selling U.S. treasuries and setting up all these counterpoints to Western-dominated petrodollar influence is a giant warning. Okay, we know what the United States does when countries or leaders try to go off the petrodollar, like Muammar Gaddafi or Saddam Hussein. They kill you. The military-industrial complex holds up the worthless, illusory dollar through blood and war. They take out Gaddafi. They take out Hussein. Why do you think they want to take out Assad? Why do you think they want to take out Putin? Why do you think they want to take out China? The yuan, the renminbi, even the IMF has now included. The Western IMF is included as part of that basket of special drawing rights that makes up world reserve currency. Even they can't stop what's coming. The East versus the West. The erosion and downfall of Babylon. The fall of the petrodollar, the rise of the East, Russia, China, the yuan, the renminbi, otherwise known as the AIIB, Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, a new military-industrial complex. I mean, we see this in the Spratly Islands right now, the heavily contested islands. China's dredging up and creating islands, for their Navy forces and airstrips and all these kinds of things. This is what's happening right now. And I've said this many times before, take a bird's nest view and look into the United States right now. It's almost laughable what's going on. We have a reality TV show taking place, a potential constitutional crisis with this election with just days till November 8th. The reopening of a new... Hillary shouldn't have been even allowed to run in the first place. If Comey had done his job from day one, she would have been prevented from running. Now, I talk a lot about Hillary Clinton deserving to be in pound-me-in-the-ass prison if she, goes to court and a jury of her peers sends her there. But what's the reality? I mean, let's just be honest with ourselves. What's the reality Hillary Clinton would ever go to jail, even if she was severely incriminated? I mean, if she gets in, she's going to pardon herself. If she doesn't get in, she'd probably be pardoned by Obama. I mean, what are even the chances of it realistically? I mean, there's so much corruption, and it's festered so much at the tippy top of Washington, D.C. politics today, in Wall Street, which owns her and funnels millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars into her Clinton Foundation, a criminal organization which should be, charged under the RICO Act. Big technology, all supporting her. I mean, the only guy that doesn't is Bilderberg Peter Thiel, who's pro-Trump and donated a measly $1 million or something like $1.5 million. He's worth a freaking $1 billion, and that's all that was given to Donald Trump. The best outcome for America is if Donald Trump wins. The best outcome. Still doesn't mean that there's not going to be problems. Still does not mean that it's going to stop the inevitable war. Hey, who knows? Maybe that's what the elites want. Get Trump in there, crash the stock markets, which I think is likely to happen, start the new war. Blame him, right? Just like Bill Clinton supposedly was responsible for a booming economy, courtesy Alan Greenspan's 0% interest rates, which just laid the groundwork for the eventual collapse that they blamed on George W. Bush. Maybe that's the whole game plan. Get his ass in there. We all know we're going to war anyways, and we all know the economic collapse is happening. And anyways, get his butt in there. That way we can blame him. Hillary and her cronies can sail off into the sunset. They'll probably set up residency right next door to Kim.com in New Zealand, where they're building their frickin' bunkers right now. WikiLeaks is going to drop something else very, very significant soon. Comey, the FBI, Hillary Clinton, her camp, and all the interests that support her, Wall Street, the banksters, the technology monopolies, are simply getting ahead of the next bombshell of damaging information that they know is coming. It's a public relations move. That was my first instinct. It very much looks like what's panning out today. If you want to see the full analysis, watch the video we put out before this. Maybe we'll go to a few comments from you guys. We'll see, since we're running live, it might be fun to do that. Ask me something good, guys. Again, don't waste my time here. Be smart. Okay, let me see. That was our last cast. Let me get our what's happening live right now. It gives you guys a few minutes to think about a question. I know you've got them. I've run this so many times in my head that I want to hear from you. Title of today's video, Putin framed. YouTube does not make this easy to find. Should be coming up here in a moment. You've got it over there. Okay, it looks like I got it too. Okay, let's go to that comment section, and then we're going to wrap up today's show. Please share it. Like it if you haven't already. Can we get 2,000 likes on this? 2,000 likes. Come on, guys, you can do it. You just have to click a freaking button. Share it, favorite it, follow me on Twitter, like us on Facebook. Mary Stevens says, latest on Assange. Well, the latest is the leaks appear to keep on coming. I've done several very, I think, damning videos to indicate that potentially WikiLeaks and Julian Assange himself have been compromised. As of yet, he hasn't shown his face, which people are like, well, that doesn't prove anything, Chris. Well, I'm sorry, the guy can go on camera, make a video, show his face, take a picture with a newspaper. Unless it's happened while I'm broadcasting this video, we haven't seen any of that happen yet. And that somehow is something nobody wants to talk about. The whole idea that potentially he and or WikiLeaks' organization could potentially have been compromised in some way. So the update is, honestly, there is no update. I think something more damning is coming. Maybe that dead man switch, if he is not alive, or maybe he's going to, leak out some, who knows? I don't know. What is the update? I don't know. I'm getting a lot of emails from you guys like, oh, he showed himself here. And then I look at it. Nope, he didn't. No, that was put out months ago. No, Michael Moore visited him in June. None of it's, current. None of it's relevant. So that's the update. I mean, if you think about it, why aren't people in the United Kingdom right now showing up, and I'm not going to mention anyone by name in today's broadcast, that are like next door to the Ecuadorian embassy? Why don't they go? They're right there. I mean, they could just walk over. So that's the update. And so I'm answering no, there is no proof of life of Assange yet. The Chosen Juan 21 says elite will physically, mentally fight for presidency. Physical, mentally fight for presidency. Elite won't let anyone get in the way. Joshua Kanowitz says huge false flag as soon as possible. I think you're right. It might come in the form of a constitutional crisis. It could come in the form of a nuke event, a literal bomb. It could come in the form of an EMP, a tech bomb. It could just be an election crisis again. You know, Hillary goes down in a ball of flames. How do they replace her? Obama's got to halt the election. You know, he presides over a third term, etc. I mean, all of these are potential variables. Pavo Koronin says, how to organize the resistance most effectively. Well, I think you're going to see this snowball post the election. That's my humble opinion. I think the secessionist movement will build and pick up steam even further. I think that's what the alternative media and the quote-unquote conservative media and alt-right, you're going to see a gravitation towards that. You're going to see good constitutionalist Americans gravitate towards that. You know, something I didn't talk about, but that was a really big success that just happened, what was it, a week ago, but there's been just so much information hitting with everything around the election. I didn't have time for it. Was that the initial trial with the Bundy and the Oregon standoff, all the guys were acquitted thus far, which I think is a huge, huge victory. You know, finally, a jury did what was right, viewed these, Ammon Bundy and others as patriots and great Americans for who they actually are. You know, Lavoy Finicum shot in cold blood with his freaking hands up. And you didn't hear a peep of it from the mainstream media because they don't care, because guess what? He's got a cowboy hat on and he's white. It's the new black in this country. It's the new N-word. Shot in cold blood. Anyways, I thought that was a victory, something that we'll be following and, of course, reporting on. So in terms of organization, you will see that manifest itself in the coming months. Somebody said, Eric says, I'm going to probably just go drink a couple of beers and go fishing. Well, it's also important to step back a little bit and honestly enjoy yourself. And people don't like it when I say it, but pray and be humbled and realize that there's a higher power in control, folks. I mean, does it really matter, for example, who drops the first bomb, right? If it's a preemptive strike of the U.S. or a retaliation of Russia, or even if it's vice versa, if it's an accident, if you know it's going to come and you know it's coming, does it even matter? The question you should be asking is, what does it mean for you? What does it mean for you and yours? You and your family? How are you prepared? Right? I mean, does it really matter? I mean, whether you believe it or not, whether or not you think it's biblical or you think it's just simply a reversion to the mean, this is where, and this is the direction it's headed. I mean, I tweeted very mournfully the other day, I never thought when I was a kid that I would watch the collapse of Rome, of Babylon. I never thought that I would be sitting here today, still relatively a young man, and watch my own nation go down in flames. I never thought it would happen. And it's honestly very, very upsetting emotionally. It really is, because I do care. And I care about you. And I care about everybody out there. I care about the radical left. Because I know that they're going to be hurt when the hellstorm hits. Even if they don't see it coming. We are all human beings. And I don't want to see people destroyed. I don't want to see nations crumble. I don't want to see people dead. You know, when I read figures and independent studies that over 500,000 people are dead in Syria, I mean, I weep thinking about that internally. I weep. And you should too, and everybody should. And what's so wrong about the way the mainstream media and the UN and the West is positioning it is blaming Putin for this, when he had nothing to do with it. It's the U.S. that invaded Iraq and Afghanistan post-September 11th on a baseless lie that made up WMD's weapons of mass destruction. They didn't invade Saudi Arabia, they invaded those countries. It's the West that lied and said they had nothing to do with the rise and creation of ISIS and the destabilization and gun running of weapons in Libya, in Benghazi Gate, and then that came out later to just be a fact. that has caused this ripple effect and caused the greater Levant to crumble, to foment ISIS, which has turned into people cutting people's heads off in this part of the world and rolling over into Syria in their next attack to potentially take down Assad. It's not Putin. Mary says, thanks, Christopher. Thank you, Mary. King Ibby says, why do the U.S. want to kill Putin? By U.S., I mean Hillary, etc. Please answer, bro. Well, petrodollar. He is a direct threat. Russia and China and the oligarchs are a direct threat to the military-industrial complex protected petrodollar. That's the reason. Okay, it's a total illusion. The dollar is backed by nothing, not gold, not a commodity, not even a digital algorithm. Nothing. There is no difference between a single dollar bill and a $100 bill. It's the same worthless piece of paper it was printed on. And the only thing that protects it is blood and war. That's it. Russia and China are a threat to that. No fault of their own. They're running, they're just, growing their nations, building themselves up. It's competition. The United States will not have it. When Muammar Gaddafi wanted to move off the dollar-based system, they killed him. When Saddam Hussein, as Bush would say, Saddam wanted to go off the petrodollar, we invaded Iraq. And they hung him. That's why they want war with Putin. That's why they want war with China. And that's why they're taking out the red line. And everybody knows this. Putin clearly knows this. The oligarchs know this. They want to take Assad out. He's the last country and man standing before NATO just rolls through and rips apart that entire region, and Putin loses any kind of semblance of control and, more importantly, self-defense. With that missile defense shield just hanging out in countries like Poland and Romania right now, there's extreme danger. There's a reason Putin is running these drills, these nuclear bomb drills with 40 million Russians. I don't think it's psychological warfare. I don't think it's a stunt. They're really preparing. And what are your leaders? How are they helping you to prepare here? They're not doing a gosh darn thing. The only thing the media can report is the latest, Huma Abedin, Anthony Weiner freak show. That's what we get here in the West. And hopefully that answers your question. That's why they want to take him out. And they will kill him, just like these other leaders. Again, there could be another Franz Ferdinand moment, folks. Study your history. Kez says, you're 100%. I will be sharing this everywhere. Thank you. Like this, 2,000 likes. Can we get it? Can we get it, guys? Can we get it? 2,000 likes? Click the like button, favorite, share it, tweet it, get it out everywhere. Mike Smith says, Trump green 2020. Maybe. I wouldn't rule anything out. If you guys supported it, I'd do it. Why not? Doesn't sound like a fun job, but who knows? Maybe it'll be Trump green of the new republic. Think about that for a moment. Craig says, we are in a matrix. Mark Edwards, military coup if Hillary wins. That's another reason why you need to reach out to your friends in the military, those that are serving. And these are a lot of great people. A lot of them very, very educated. You need to reach out to our military. You need to reach out to our police. Okay, the Washington, D.C. loses control if they turn on Washington. If our military turns and they hold up their oath, right? There's an organization out there called Oath Keepers, and the police protect the people and protect their oath, so to speak. That's why we need to reach out to those groups. Here's a question. This is from Without Excuse 2011. He says, the globalists steal the election for Hillary. They will claim that the results are valid, legit, and must be accepted. What happens next? Well, again, civil war, unrest, these are extreme things, but this is what I think is secession movement becomes mainstream, just like Donald Trump has mainstreamed what has organically been growing for nearly 8, going on almost 10 years now, something that we've been a part of and been doing, you know, this constitutional perspective of, you know, people being angry and wanting justice for what's been happening to them. Craig says, should I sell my house? Craig, I don't know, man. There's so many variables there. Where do you live? Is it safe? Are you in the U.S.? Are you not? You know, there's so many I can't really answer your question. You have to look at your individual situation. You know, look out where you're safest, where you're most protected, where you have the most resources. You know, family, business, all these things probably, you know, be taken into consideration. I can't really answer that question. Arthur says, Riley, could stealing the election and civil unrest be the false flag? Yes. I'll reemphasize one last time before closing out this broadcast. Again, Putin is being framed by Western interests, the UN, and the United Nations to start a war with Russia in China. It is based on a foundation of lies that are totally baseless, they're untruths, and it's propaganda. And once they have the foundation for that, all they need is a catalyst. And they get the war that they want, and they get the war that all of us that have any kind of level of education or any ability to process information at all and think for themselves critically, that we all know is coming. Let's wrap up today's show. I'm Christopher Green, hard-hitting in your face. Again, please support us. Click the link below. Price of a cup of coffee. Support us independently, alternatively, the underground. We are the thought criminals, folks. We are the revolutionaries. We are the patriots. And who knows, maybe it is Trump Green of the New Republic in 2020. Peace.